Hi, my name is Kimberly Klein. I am the Associate Chair for Students here at SBS. And what that means is that I get to know you when you're applying to come to NTU and when you're considering your course of study here at SBS. And that also means I get to know you throughout your time here in SBS through a variety of activities and events. In addition to being associate chair, I am also an associate professor, and my specialty is microbiology. I care about all things small and invisible. I think about bacteria all the time. They're my favorite little creatures. And so I teach courses in microbiology. I run a lab that studies microbiology. So if any of you are interested in microbiology, I'd be thrilled to talk to you more about that. And so I'm going to hand this off now to Dr. Wilson Go.
Thanks, Kimberly. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Wilson, and I am the Assistant Chair of Students in the School of Biological Sciences in NTU. So you probably have a very good sense in terms of what we do already from Kimberly, and so I shall not mirror what she just said. It is my great privilege to introduce you today to three of our illustrious alumni. So we have Jonathan, and we have Chun Ping, and we have Ness, and I shall leave them to introduce themselves. Chun Ping, would you start first?
Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Chun Ping, and thanks very much for NTU for allowing me to attend this session to share with the prospective students about the exciting things happening in NTU and SBS especially. So currently I'm the Managing Director of Gene Data. We are a software company for the life science sector. So like many of you here, I was a polytechnic graduate, and I graduated from NTU SBS in 2010. So after graduating from NTU, I started my career in drug development in A-Star, and then later on I went into the analytical science industry. So after being in the industry a while, I realized that data analysis is a key bottleneck in the sciences. So I went to join Gene Data, my current company in Switzerland. So after a couple of years in Gene Data, the company board decided to start a subsidiary in Singapore, and that's where I got relocated back here to start this establishment.
Thank you, Chun Ping. Jonathan, would you care to introduce yourself?
Well, hey everyone, it's nice to kind of see you, or at least see the camera on my screen. It's great to be here. I too graduated back in 2010, which actually makes me pretty old now, which is a bit scary when you think about it. And likewise, I was from the same batch as Chong Ping and as Nas as well. I actually came from a polytechnic background as well, Singapore Poly. Did my bachelor's at NTU. Did a PhD at NUS, and now I work as the Regional Publications Manager for Takeda Pharmaceuticals. So it was an interesting journey, definitely, but I'm sure we'll get to that in the next few questions. But with this, let me just leave you with one thought for the day. You know, while we joke about the School of Biological Science having an acronym that's very familiar with us because it's the only way to get into NTU, like the namesake company, you know, our discipline has been keeping the world moving through this pandemic. Over to you, Nas.
Thank you, John. That was a nice one. So I am Nasira. So people, you will hear the name Nas most of the time. I like it too because it has so many popular figures behind the name. So I came from the JC pathway. I took triple science. So I just went all science. I never really decided to change my path then. So after JC triple science, I came to uni. I chose biological sciences, because that time I was pretty sure I wanted something in the research field because I'm too scared of blood to become a doctor at the point in time. But right now I'm in a totally different field. I'm a senior financial consultant in Magna Vera Advisory, which is part of Great Eastern Financial Advisors. And from where I started upon graduating, yes, it has been a decade, feels quite old. From then on, I have actually gone to A-Star as my first platform to actually do research. And then I went on to Duke NUS Medical School to continue with the research work. And I also did my master's from University of Liverpool in public healthcare. So after my master's, I toggled a few other ideas. I started my own businesses. And then eventually I ended up in a financial advisory field with Great Eastern, which is a OCBC group. Thank you.
Thank you, Nas.
Yeah, you all have such interesting career paths. So I think if you don't mind, Wilson and I are going to ask you all some questions and get to know you a little bit better. So maybe I'll just start with a question. So I'm curious what you learned or experienced when you were at SBS. So whether it's sort of, coursework or skills or some other experience or experiences, multiple, that have helped guide you to where you're at, because each of you have this sort of winding path in a way to get to the jobs you're in right now. So I'm curious about what sort of things or experiences you had at SBS that helped get you to where you're at right now. And so I can open the floor if someone wants to just jump in and start. Or maybe I'll call on somebody. Jonathan, you look like you're ready to go.
Sure. I think it was an interesting experience. I mean, coming from the poly background and then having 2 months of my brain on standby mode in the army, coming to NTU, the experience was pretty good because, I mean, I got some module exemptions, which was nice, but I also had to take some of the foundation modules. And I think the fundamentals that we learned in those modules really set the framework and the base for everything else that we did after that in NTU. I mean, there were some modules I didn't really enjoy when I was doing my course there, but looking back in hindsight, it was actually a good thing that I did them because those were the modules that actually made a very big impact when I was doing my PhD. So I would say that one of the great things about the NTU curriculum, the SBS curriculum at least, is with the modules on offer, it's really everything you need to know is there. It really falls upon you to learn how to connect the dots between your modules. We tend to see modules as standalone things, but to really maximize your time and your experience in your learning opportunities, learn to connect the dots between the modules, whether you're in year 1, year 2, or year 3.
That's great advice too. Chuping, it looks like you have something to add.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for my case, I think I'm a Singaporean man and I self-funded my university. So actually, I have several years of lag from the polytechnic to the university because I need to serve the army. During my time, it was 2.5 years, and I worked for a while before entering the university. So to me, I think the interesting part is the process of restarting the learning engine in the academic environment. It does take a while, at least for myself. And I think the learning journey is that I have to be very independent and be very disciplined in learning. Because in the university, there are a lot less hand-holding from the lecturers compared to if let's say you're from JC or Polytechnic. So how much you can learn really depends on yourself. And NTU has quite a lot of different courses and modules across faculties, stuff that I really like. So you can really learn anything you want. What I find great about NTU in the course that I was in, the bioscience, is that it's structured in such a way that it allows you to take electives quite easily and do a minor program. Because when I was there, I managed to do a minor program myself in business. So it does help you learn widely from the other modules in the other schools or whatever interest that you may like.
That's great. Nas, do you have anything to add here?
Actually, to add on, I think the first thing I learned from School of Biological Sciences is discipline, because most of my friends, they took the accountancy or the business pathway. So what happened is I see their schedule, it's not cramped. And they might start their courses at about 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. That was I thinking, how do they get to sleep so long? But our courses are usually at 8 a.m. So I think that is very important thing. Like when I read a lot of books about, how to be always motivated and always, strive forward and be successful, right? The one key thing that they will always tell us is to wake up early, start your day early, and have discipline. So for me, starting the day early in science, learning it from science, continuing, not losing that pattern was very, very important, because I think till now I've been waking up early. At the same time I go to school, at the same time I go to office as well. And the second thing is you have so many different courses that you can choose. Sometimes you might end up in a course or module that you don't really enjoy, but whether you like it or not, strive your best to know as much as you can from it, which is very, very important. I think that discipline must be always in with the students, whether you like it or not. Since I've chosen it, see it through, see it till the end is very important as well. So I think that is a few things I learned. And one more thing is recording of lectures. This one, Jonathan might relate to it very well. I always record my lectures. Whether it is a short lecture, long lecture, every lectures are recorded, because for me, I think repetition kind of reinstates a lot of concepts, and I'm very scared of losing out. So it's a very Singaporean mindset of losing out, right? So I don't even want to lose out even 5% of the info. So I'll record and re-listen, but you will always hear Jonathan's voice in between, like a crosstalk. Yeah.
Thank you, Nes. Yes, that is a very nice sharing, and I'm really glad to hear that your experience in SBS has helped to hone your discipline, and more importantly, right, from what I'm hearing, it sounded as if the experience in SBS has also helped you to develop the grades, right, to overcome situations even where you may not fully enjoy the content that's actually being taught to you. And so I have a few questions that I shall ask to our alumni as well. So perhaps any of you can take up this question. Do you feel like compared to your colleagues, do you see any difference in the way you work or the way you perceive problems or the way you solve problems because of your specific training or any experience, right, that's due to your learning in SBS that has helped you positively?
Maybe I can go first for this one. Yeah, for myself, after I grad from NTU, I worked in A-Star for a while, and then I went to work for an instrument company and then now a software company that deal with big data in drug R&D sector. So maybe I can start with talking about A-Star just in a very succinct way. It was very much focused on biopharma research area. So naturally, whatever I learned in NTU does come in very handy because it's extremely relevant. When I went to the analytical instrument company and now a software company, the situation was actually a bit different. Because strictly speaking, it was more focused on the use of technology across different scientific disciplines. It's not exactly bioscience per se, but of course we can be as granular as we want it to be. But what I find is that whatever I've learned in NTU SBS is still very relevant because I'm still using the biological knowledge itself and also the scientific approach to solve problems. In fact, I find that a lot of times I find myself having an unfair advantage compared to some of my colleagues because I know more biology than my peers who are mostly just chemists or software engineers. So I would be able to understand the meaning behind why a client wants to do things a certain way and to be able to explain things in an easy to understand way to someone that's not from this field, like for example, a layman or whoever. And I think being able to bridge that gap in communicating technicalities in simple terms had helped me to develop my career quite a lot for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Jung-Ping. Nes, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, actually, I would like to add on as well. Problem solving, I think it is a very key skill in the work environment, which I realize in my financial field, right? Not many people have that particular skill. And I find like I think because it's the science training or what, I assume it is because of that. We use a lot of our analytical brain. We kind of find answers faster as compared to my peers. So I think we are able to connect the dots faster, as well as when it comes to research, I can say I would like to, put my 100% bet on it that I think as science students or anyone with this analytical background, research background, they do far better in researching for the right information. So that's what I wanted to add on.
Thank you, Nes. Jonathan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and actually agree with all of that. Not just because they're my batchmates, but I think having my own experience where I did the Eureka program in NTU, where you get to do some research over one semester. I think I'm not sure they still have it there, and then subsequently doing my PhD, and now in the field I am in. I think that research analytical experience, more importantly, the research background that teaches you how to fail successfully, right? It's a taboo word that we hear a lot, failure, but successful failure actually is the key to problem solving and how you deal with that, how you go back, troubleshoot, look at what went wrong, tear your hair out a bit. You probably don't want to tear your hair out a bit, but just go back and think it through, and that process trains you very well. And it's an essential skill that most employers are looking for nowadays. I mean, at the end of the day, what you learn, it's great. It opens maybe the first door for you, but beyond that, I'm not going to pay you if I have to tell you how to do your job, right? I'm going to pay you and I expect you to do the job and problem solve on your own. You come to me if you have a solution or if you really get stuck, but you've tried something. And on a separate note, I think with the NTU programs as well, within the biological sciences curriculum, there was a communication module. But beyond that, because we also had access to the Wee Kim Wee School of Communications, I think the opportunity to take some of the communication modules there were invaluable because if you look at the situation with the pandemic right now, I think one of the biggest challenges has been scientific communication to in plain language, right? Everyone gets so comfortable speaking in technical jargon that, if you're not trained, if you don't have a science background, it just right over your head. And understanding what goes into effective communication, which is really part of my job, I think has really given me an advantage, because you understand the science of it, but you also understand the target audience and you know how to bring that together into an effective message. But beyond all that, I think the most important thing about the stuff I learned at School of Bioscience is that if you go to MBS and you look at the helix bridge, it's spinning in the wrong way. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, I think that sharing is actually really important, and indeed, right, it is very important to learn from your failures. And I think in SBS, the curriculum is challenging enough that our students do get to fail often. And of course, in this controlled environment, right, we also help to guide them in the learning that comes along with failing first. So I think it is very important. And it is also true that the best way to not fail is to simply not do anything at all. And so I think it is important to put your best foot forward and to learn as much as possible and to learn how to overcome adversity. All right. And I think Naz has done a great job at this, because she has learned how to persevere and she has developed excellent grades as well in the process. Now, I noticed that all of you are actually batchmates. All right. That means you went through 4 years of school together. All right. And it is really, really nice to see how close you are to each other, you know, and how much back history that you all have together as well. So could you tell us, or let us know if there are any classmates of yours who have been involved in some interesting careers as well?
I think some of our classmates have become air steward.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also had the top student from our batch, who was incidentally a poly student from the same poly that I was in. He went on to become the marketing manager of Brand Essence of Chicken Suntory. He now oversees the whole of the Thailand region. We have another classmate as well, who's actually colleagues with me in Takeda. I think he was initially working in the medical team and then went over to the marketing team, and is, I think, going to move back to a more senior medical role soon.
I also remember that we have quite a few batchmates that went off to do something else. One of them was a manager for a golf course, and then there was another. I think he went to life science for a while, and later on he went to become the facilities manager or something. And then later on there was also another guy that I remember. Now he's the marketing manager for Raffles Hotel. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty diverse. Yeah.
There's also some of them in NEA as well.
Yes, yes.
NEA.
We had one who enjoyed studying so much. I think after his bachelor's, he did a PhD and then went to Duke and US to do medicine. I think he's finally stopped being a student at some point.
Oh, yeah, I know him because I met him in Duke and MS. He is now working. He's doing his housemanship right now.
He's finally working, yeah.
Yep.
If you're listening, sorry, we didn't mean to offend.
Well, it's great to actually hear all of those examples, because one of the things that we tell our incoming students that are listening here today, when they ask about what kind of careers you can pursue with a degree in biology, we say pretty much anything. This training just sort of sets the stage for a lot of different types of career paths, depending on what you're interested in. And so you have proven that we're not just making that up with the diversity of careers just in your batch alone. So before we end today, although those were really wonderful pieces of advice, I just want to ask if you have any last pieces of advice for the folks that are out there listening to us today. Naz, do you want to go first?
Okay. So for the students who are listening out there, right, I think my simple advice is focus on the skills that you are acquiring in any field of study that you are doing, because I think that is the one that will set us ahead. The knowledge, to me, I always think it always expires. So knowledge is something you can acquire anywhere and you're constantly doing it. So your skills is the one that is going to really be applicable. Whatever you learn, it will be applicable across different disciplines. So focus on the skills, focus on the network you are acquiring in the place you are studying as well, because I think the network is also your key asset.
So on my end, I think my advice is that the biological science degree course is not going to be an easy one. No one ever said that it's an easy course. But if you happen to get into SBS, do prepare to work hard. But I would like to advise that this is just your first degree, and for most people this is just an entry point to a job or whatever that you're going to do. God knows, right? Maybe you won't be even in the science sector. But of course, my assumption here is that since you are listening to this, you must have an interest in science somehow. And for the first degree, I think undergrad should learn broadly, use the university as a platform to open your mind. Very few people I know already knew what they want to do for the rest of their lives when they're in the 20s. Not many. So learning broadly, having an open mind will help you see more opportunities in life.
Okay, wow, I get to say a few words. So I would say, while, come into SBS, learn what you need to learn. It's important, but as Nas said, it will expire. But while you're focused on learning all that content knowledge, do not neglect your communication skills. I think that is probably the most important thing that we tend to take for granted. We used to complain a lot about lab reports, but if you think about it, looking back now, the lab reports and any other report that you get are the one chance you get to practice getting your thoughts together, putting them down on paper, and making sure people understand what you are trying to say. I mean, I've seen lots of in my line of work, I've seen lots of publications and papers where you read it and I don't know what this person is trying to say. Or if you talk to someone from a different discipline, it's like a chicken talking to a duck, right? You want to avoid that. So really, every chance you get, practice communicating what you're learning, not just to your colleagues, your classmates, but practice to your parents as well. This is part of how we can improve scientific literacy, not just amongst ourselves, but across the country and our families as well. And I think doing a course in biology, you will have that responsibility as well, just to educate people better about all the new developments that we're seeing in medicine.
Thank you very much. With that advice, it's no surprise to me to see how successful all three of you have been in your careers. I mean, you're very thoughtful about your education and how you've applied that to your careers. And so it's really exciting for me to hear these things, actually. So I want to thank all three of our alumni. It was tremendous to see you here today. We know that you're all very busy, so taking time out of your jobs. It means a lot to us, and I think it'll mean a lot to our prospective students to hear what it is that you guys are doing. So thank you very much again. And to our listeners, we hope you stick around for the next sharing session in which you'll learn a little bit more about what's happening in chemistry and biological chemistry.